Some people call that DNA. I say like this.
Guys, move to one side, please. One side, please.
Boxing world has reacted to the electrifying showdown between Chris Eubank Jr. and Conor Benn. Here are the most interesting reactions. What did that be? What did that be? Heat. Before this bout, Steve Collins gave his bold prediction. Notably, Collins became the first man to defeat Chris Eubank Sr. when they fought 30 years ago. In an interview with TalkSport, the Celtic Warrior shared an honest prediction for the fight, confessing that he's finding it difficult to choose a clear winner. He said, "I don't know who's going to win this. I genuinely cannot pick a winner. I can, pick reasons why I think either guy can win. I'm really looking forward to it because it's a good match, and I really can't pick a winner. Both guys are capable of beating each other." The legendary feud between the Eubank and Benn families has been sparked anew, with many declaring the April clash as one of the most significant moments in British boxing history. Benn faced the challenge of stepping up to middleweight, having spent the majority of his tumultuous professional career fighting at welterweight. The tension leading up to their grudge match was intense, with Eubank smashing an egg over Benn's head during their announcement press conference. Eubank noted before the fight, "I don't do shenanigans. I do what I believe is right. And I do what I want to do. I'm just being me." However, the stare down on Tuesday went over without a hitch as Eubank looked at Benn from a distance. Eubank said, "This fight isn't about size or weight. It's about skill. It's about dedication. It's about expertise. All those areas I excel in. I'm a complete fighter. I've been doing this for so long now, I've forgotten more things than he knows. And that will show on the night. The experience, dedication, and the will, these will be the deciding factors." Echoing the words of his famous father, Eubank promised to dissect Benn. He said before the fight, "The procedure will be parliamentary. That's the only thing I can say about this. Everything will go how I want it to go. I will be like a matador in the ring, and Conor Benn will be the bull." With his own Eubank rivalry, Benn was carrying on his father Nigel Benn's legacy. However, he also reaffirmed that the contest was personal to him. Benn said, "It's always personal, every opponent. I fight as personal. People want to say it's strictly business. It's never business. If someone is trying to put their hands on me, trying to render me unconscious, it's never business. It's personal with every one of my opponents. But this one has more history, shall we say. I prepare hard. There aren't any tactics to hide. I'm going to come in there and give it to him. That's it." Benn further added, "You all know what you're getting. I work hard. Am I extremely confident? I'm confident as ever because I put the work in. It really does feel like the homecoming for me. It's one of those fights that never went away. I couldn't not give the British public this fight. It was a fight that just lingered and had to happen once. I put this to bed. I'll drop back down to 147 pounds and do what I've got to do. I'm only up here at 160 pounds for these two fights. Then I'm dropping back down." Meanwhile, it was announced before the fight that the World Boxing Council would back the winner of the Chris Eubank Jr. versus Conor Benn fight coming through to take on Canelo Alvarez. It is a major event that has all the elements a fan can expect. WBC President Mauricio Suleiman said of Eubank versus Benn, he added, "The rivalry between the parents, which became a rivalry between the kids." Heated press conferences, social media. When the bell rings, it is going to be something for the memory of everyone, and hopefully the fight comes up to the expectations. Eubank has been mentioned as Canelo's potential opponent in the future. Although Eubank was competing against Benn at middleweight, Eubank has experienced boxing at super middleweight. Despite his weight increase to 160 pounds, Benn is placed third in the WBC's welterweight world rankings. Both are ranked, have been highly ranked for many years, and are top level in the sport. A fight for the championship is doable, Sullivan said of the Eubank Benn winner fighting Canelo. He added, "Absolutely, Canelo has embarked on a new stage of his career. He will fight in Riyadh and is then scheduled to fight in Las Vegas. And the winner this Saturday is going to be a major player in boxing worldwide." Certainly, a more realistic objective for Eubank in 2026 would be to box Canelo. Benn is more likely to pursue world honors back down at welterweight. He told Sky Sports, "I will be going back down to 147 pounds to win the world title. Meanwhile, Tony Bellew was also assessing the fight between Chris Eubank Jr. and Conor Benn. This contest had divided opinions. Eubank Jr. brought a wealth of experience, having faced genuine world champions and former title holders. However, he had faltered in his most significant challenges, losing to the likes of George Groves and Joe Saunders. He was also the naturally larger fighter, with Benn having to step up 2 full weight classes from his usual 147 pounds to compete at 160. However, there was a 10-pound rehydration clause on. The morning of the fight, despite being the younger fighter, Benn had lost some momentum in the ring, securing only 2 modest points victories in the United States since the cancellation of his first bout with Eubank following a positive doping test. Before that, he was riding a strong wave of success, securing knockouts against fighters like Chris Algieri and Samuel Vargas. This has led some in the sport to believe he possessed the power, aggression, and determination to take down Eubank. In an interview with the First Round TV, former world champion Tony Bellew backed Benn to finish the fight early, tipping him to secure a win within the first half. Bellew's support comes after Benn was cleared to compete in the UK late last year following a provisional suspension during the investigation.
Hearts.
Yeah.
My heart always says Conor. I love the kid. He's a good kid with a good heart. But if this fight goes past 6 rounds, it's a hard night to work.
It seems that's the general consensus, I think.
I think that 6-round mark is ever. You know what? I should say 8 rounds because Conor's extremely fit.
Oh, proper.
He's unbelievable, so I should go 8 rounds. It's just that it's when it gets that stage, that's where weight becomes a factor and size becomes a factor. I think that's when it shows on him. But then I don't think Chris Eubank Jr. is a very good boxer. I think he's a terrible boxer. I think he's a better fighter than he is boxer. I just think he can be copped. If I'm a betting man, I'm saying Conor Benn in the first.
Nobody is more aware of what it takes to face Chris Eubank Jr. than Joe Saunders. The former 2-weight world champion has rubbed shoulders with boxing greats like Canelo Alvarez and Andy Lee, and he was also part of a major showdown against Eubank Jr. in 2014. Saunders built a commanding lead in the contest, but Eubank Jr. finished much stronger, nearly closing the gap before the judges awarded Saunders a split decision victory. Despite the fight taking place over a decade ago, the rivalry between Saunders and Eubank Jr. has not cooled, with the pair constantly taking swipes at each other and frequently being linked to a rematch. Saunders still shares his views on the sport, and with Eubank Jr. finally fighting Conor Benn, he delivered his verdict before the fight. As of late, he's looked a little bit old, should we say, and don't forget Eubank's not the kind of boxer to get behind his jab. Get a nice lead, use his footwork, said Saunders. When discussing Eubank Jr. with Box Nation, he added he's been in some scraps, and he's been in some good scraps with not the best opponents, but they've still given him some good work. I just think if Conor catches him clean and can follow up on one of them good shots, sort of like a Liam Smith shot, I think Conor Benn knocks him out. Meanwhile, Eddie Hearn and Nigel Benn were also involved in the tumultuous scenes that ensued after Eubank Jr. smacked his opponent with an egg when they faced each other. Everyone seemed to have an opinion about the fight, as the entire boxing community was anticipating the event with excitement. With so much pride on the line, Joe Calzaghe, who shared the ring with Chris Eubank Sr. in 1997, understood what it takes to enter the ring. The Welshman, who went undefeated at the end of his career and participated in numerous high-profile fights, gave his prediction for the winner of the fight. Calzaghe said, "Yeah, I think it's a tough one to call talent-wise. I think they're on the same sort of level. But size wins fights, so I sort of edge with Eubank, as he's the bigger guy naturally." Carl Froch, a former boxing world champion, also commented on the match between Conor Benn and Chris Eubank Jr. and maintained that the latter has done nothing in their attempt to predict the winner. Froch and fellow legend Ricky Hatton have been unable to come to a consensus. In a video uploaded to his official YouTube channel, Froch said that when considering all the variables, such as who had achieved more, who was the bigger and stronger man, and who had experience at the world level, Chris Eubank Jr. stood out. He pointed out that Eubank had fought George Groves and Joe Saunders, had beaten Arthur Abraham and James D. Gale, a former world champion, and had proven himself at a higher weight class on the world stage. In contrast, Fro stated that Conor Benn had done nothing of significance. He acknowledged that Benn had knocked out Chris Algieri, a former champion, and looked good doing it, but emphasized that Algieri was well past his prime. Frock concluded by saying that if he had to pick his immediate favorite in the fight, he would go with Chris Eubank Jr.
Who's done what and who's the bigger, stronger man and who's got the experience at world level? You're gonna have to say Chris Eubank Jr. He's fought Groves, he's fought Billy Joe Saunders, he's been in there and beat Arthur Abraham, James DeGale, former IBF super middleweight world champion. He beat him. So he's performed at a better level and proven that at a higher weight he kind of belongs around the world, sort of the world level status, where Conor Benn hasn't done anything. He's done nothing. Make no mistake. Yes, he banged out Chris Algieri, who was a former champ, and he looked good doing it. But it was a way past his best, Chris Algieri. I was working the commentary team for him alongside Roy Jones Jr. when Billy Joe Saunders fought Canelo Alvarez, and Chris was saying to me, "I'm not in the gym, I'm not training, I'm not interested in boxing anymore. I'm going to concentrate on my punditry." About 6 months later, I'm seeing getting knocked out by Conor Benn. I thought, what is going on? Why do these fighters do it? Obviously, some of them need the bunt.
And that's all for today. Stay tuned for more latest updates from your favorite boxing.